We are back. It has been a year, and we are kicking off the LoLo Bash. This is our, how many? Oh,
17.
There's a little boy in here. Say hello. He's just staring. That's funny. Our 17th annual LoLo Bash. It's the second year we've done it. 17th? Yes.
17.
Because you've been diagnosed for 18, and we've done it for 17. And this is our second year doing it virtually. So normally what we've done in the past is we have done... So what is a LoLo Bash? A LoLo Bash is a fundraiser that Mom's one of her best friends here in the area, her sister and her mom kind of started as a way to fundraise for Mom's treatment for her multiple sclerosis. So she was going to Germany once to ideally twice a year. And so that was just supposed to help meet those needs so she could get there. Unfortunately, since COVID has happened, travel obviously is very strict and locked down, and her doctor is actually no longer not allowed to practice that treatment right now. So there's lots of stuff. So last year, my sister and I kind of took over, and we are doing it virtual. So this is a way that instead of trying to supplement for those, specifically for those German trips, we're trying to use the LoLo Bash as a way to fundraise for just her normal day-to-day medical needs. So that looks like, we'll get into all the details. Actually, we'll break that down for you towards the end. But the whole point of this fundraiser is just to make it possible for her to be able to, in a way that suits her, to treat her multiple sclerosis. So to start, I realize not everybody knows what MS is. Multiple sclerosis is what it's called. So Mom was diagnosed with MS December
2004.
So for those who have no idea, obviously if you're here, if you're seeing this, you probably either know Lori, know one of the family or like loved ones, but not everyone knows what MS is. So tell us a little bit, what is MS? And also a little bit, because there's a lot that we do know about MS, but there's a lot of unknowns, like, is it genetic? How do you get it? Are there cures? There's a lot of unknowns as well with MS. So tell us a little about what MS is and what are some of the unknowns that you know of.
So MS basically is multiple sclerosis. So multiple, it's two or more sclerosis. And a sclerosis, the easiest way to describe it is like an electric wire has the copper wiring, but then a rubberized coating over it. So the electric impulses go through the wire, and that coating keeps it from shorting and going and not getting where it needs to be. So a sclerosis, in our bodies, we have those neural pathways as well, but around each of these nerves is what they call the myelin sheath, or that rubber coating basically. And a sclerosis is like a scar or a opening in that sheath. So it prevents the message from getting to the brain to where it needs to go. So depending on where they call them lesions, so where your sclerosis or your lesions are, it can affect your arms, it can affect your legs, it can affect your ability to speak, swallow, whatever. And it also slowly affects all of your muscles. Your heart is a muscle, your bladders are muscles. So eventually, most people first use the ability to use their legs, then their arms. It eventually affects people swallowing, their bladder and bowel issues, and I'm short, sorry. And so that's kind of it in a nutshell. And
so there, like I said, there's a lot of unknowns too. So people will ask, oh, is it genetic? Is there someone in her family that has it? No one that we know of in the family. Is it, how do you get it? Like, is it something you catch? Are you born with it? They don't really know, right?
They really don't know. They've done all sorts of research. They're still researching for us. I was raised in a community, and there are at least 5 of us that have multiple sclerosis that grew up within 2 city blocks. So one of the things they were kind of researching for a while years ago when we were all first diagnosed within a small time frame, they were looking to see could it have been environmental. Where our community was, it was built where the water from a battery plant pooled. We also lived surrounded by cornfields, and they still crop dusted. We were all within the same year or two of age, older and younger siblings that didn't have it, no history. So it could be genetic. One of my doctors, who's an MS specialist, believes more than likely we were all exposed to a virus, chicken pox or something like that, at the same time. And because we were at that same developmental stage, that we were just predisposed for this. So they really don't know. It's still just a lot of guesswork. There is no cure at this time. There are things that help slow the progression, but there is no cure. Mm-hmm. So right now it's just trying to stay ahead of it and slow it until they come up with something.
Yeah. And that was a huge part for us. That's why from the very get-go, Germany was so important to mom, for that to be her like game plan for treatment. Unfortunately, like I said, COVID has changed stuff for a lot of us, but that's been a big thing too, is because that was one of those things. It was not a cure, but she was one of 40 people that would go, and she was one of the few that could walk. I heard about Germany myself. One of my good friends in high school, her dad had MS, and I didn't know or understand, but he would be in a walker. I'd be at her house hanging out. He'd be on a walker in a wheelchair, and he'd go to Germany and come back, and he'd be walking totally normal. So that is why we are still praying and still hopeful that Germany will open back up and that treatment becomes available. But in the meantime, we can't just sit idly. So we're, like she says, keeping her muscles strong, being intentional, because food we know can have healing properties in it as well. So she's very particular about her nutrition and all that stuff. So there's a lot to this, but that's a big part of why we do what we do, and why she has taken this approach and lives a very different life from the average American, I would say. But she's been able to maintain a very a great quality of life at the same time. So I guess I want to say, some people, I know for me, we didn't know anyone with MS besides her childhood best friend, who we knew as a kid growing up. He got diagnosed and he progressed very quickly. But so that was my thought, is, oh no, like in 2 years she's going to be in a wheelchair. Yeah. But so tell me, does MS affect everyone the same, or is it different, and how does it differ? Are there some general things, or is it different for every single person?
I think MS is definitely a personal disease. It's very different for each person. We all have a lot of similar issues. We all have thymus gland issues. Most of us have an issue with our thyroid. Eventually we all have issues with our legs, whether it's eventually they just quit working and you need a cane or a walker or a wheelchair. I have a drop foot on my right foot. Some have it on their left. But normally everybody eventually will develop a drop foot of some sort. It's just the muscles wearing out and not working the way they should. The majority of us have bladder issues. I'm very prone to UTIs, and unfortunately I have no symptoms. So this summer I had an issue where I went into total septic shock because I just had no symptoms. But that's a very common symptom for all of us with MS. So it's very different. Everybody's is personal, but we also all have usually neuropathy somewhere, whether it's in the bottom of your feet. I have the spot on my left thigh where it just tingles, like if your foot was asleep, and it just pretty much all the time. And I'll get little electrical zaps. It feels like you're getting a shock in your leg every now and then. So you'll just be sitting there, and all of a sudden you just kind of get these zaps. Mm-hmm. But I think most of us have issues like that here and there.
And so MS itself is something that does kind of go after the muscles, like Mom was saying. So that's where you see a lot of people eventually in time will end up using a walker or in a wheelchair. But there's a lot of like silent symptoms, things you don't see. And so Mom, specifically, if you would be willing to kind of share, if someone saw you on the street, they would never, and if you know Mom, like, I know there are a lot of people who are surprised when they learn this, that you would never guess that you have MS. Because for me, I hear MS and I think of someone in a wheelchair or whatever. So for you specifically, what are some of your silent symptoms? Because even though you're not in a wheelchair, every day has its own struggles. And it doesn't mean that, because you're not in a wheelchair, that everything's perfect and she's perfect strength, perfect health. Like, right. There's a lot of stuff you just can't see with MS. So could you share a little bit about like your specific symptoms?
I have a lot of pain issues, and some of that is the MS. Some of it is arthritis and other issues that I have, but there is a lot of pain. There's the neuropathy that I talked about, which is the numbness. You get a lot of the shocks. There's a thing called banding that I get quite often, and they call it the MS hug or banding, and it basically feels like you have a band or a rubber band tight between your ribs, and you just can't hardly get your breath sometimes. And so those are things that you may see someone go, and they just kind of hang on to their sides when you don't quite know what they're doing. My legs will go numb. I had one night not too long ago, I had gotten up in the middle of the night to go to the bathroom, and I thought I had taken a step, but my drop foot didn't lift up, so I ended up stepping on the top of my foot and really hyperextending it. So, sometimes you just go to move your leg and it doesn't move. I've had a couple falls, and I think a lot of us experience that. Yeah. Those are things that people don't see because they normally happen when you're really tired. And when you have MS, you just learn that you don't go out when you're really tired. You just come up with an excuse to stay home, or you plan. If I know I'm going to church on Wednesday night, I know I'm going to have acupuncture Wednesday morning, I'm going to come home, I'm going to take a nap. So you just learn to really
adjust your schedule.
Adjust your life,
And obviously, like now, so Mom, she's been diagnosed for 18 years, but when she was first diagnosed, she was still working a 40-hour job, a very high stress in the financial field job. And that's the reality for a lot of people with MS. You can't just stop. I think that's also why she's a huge advocate for making sure you have short and long-term disability, because that has been such a blessing to us. But Mom, if you would share your story, like how you got diagnosed, because Mom, another thing is to maybe share first, she doesn't just have MS. So that's the thing with autoimmune disease. She'll share about that, but she doesn't just have MS. But with that, how did you actually come to discover that you did have MS?
Okay. Yeah, when I was in high school, I was diagnosed with epilepsy. I had also had seizures as an infant, so we're assuming they were probably tied together. I had an episode when I was 2 with seizures, and then again in high school when I was 15, I started having seizures, and I knew it was an autoimmune disorder. So when all my other friends that I grew up with were getting diagnosed with MS, and I was having some of the symptoms, I never thought it could be MS, because I guess I didn't realize you could have multiple. But in reality, most of us that have an autoimmune disorder, whether it be MS or epilepsy or whatever, usually there's more than one. So I do have MS. I do have epilepsy. I also have an aggressive form of arthritis that's eating away the cartilage in the neck, spine, and joints. And I used to be able to get cartilage injections into my neck and spine and joints when I would go to Germany. After he would give us the MS shots, he would come back and do shots down my neck and in all my joints. And it made such a difference. And this summer when I had a fall, when Brett and I were taking a walk, I thought I had done something to my kneecap. But in reality, when they did the x-ray, the arthritis has just gotten so bad that there's just a big mass of arthritis under the kneecap. So didn't realize how much Germany helped slow the progression of the arthritis, but now it's showing quite severely on the MRIs and x-rays. So
yeah. So what was like the thing that was there like a moment that you're like, oh, something's going on, I need to figure out what's causing all of this?
So like Brand said, I worked in the financial industry. I was a assistant for some mortgage or for some financial advisors, and I was driving to work. I was taking a promotion. It was very, very stressful, and I was driving into work, and I just had what it felt like a blood vessel burst. It's the only thing I can imagine, and it was just like this hot fluid went up the back of my head and just kind of rained down the right side of my body, and as it went down, everything went numb. So I took myself to the hospital, and I told them I think I had a stroke. So I thought I'd had a stroke, and it turns out they did a bunch of MRIs and testing. They found that I had MS, but really they said it wasn't an MS, it was stress. But it was just a blessing that I found out before I had any major symptoms, because I was able to start Germany right away. Yeah. And I think that's also helped keep me so well. Yeah.
And I think that's what your doctor in Germany even said, is what a blessing. So many people that he treats with MS are coming so much later in their diagnosis that obviously the earlier you can deal with it, the better. And that's just another thing. If you know someone in your life who deals with MS, like stress it's awful. It brings up so many symptoms. It brings up so many issues. So that was a huge reason why after a few years, how long after you got diagnosed?
I was diagnosed in December, and I went on the first trip to Germany in September.
Right.
So it was 9 months.
And then how long after you were diagnosed were you put on disability?
I worked for 7 years.
7 years.
I had to stop in 2010.
But she literally went to the doctor, something was wrong, not sure, and the doctor, like, on her lunch break, right?
Yeah.
Or was that a different time?
No, I started having, it wasn't actually the MS when I had to quit working, it was the epilepsy. I had a seizure driving home from the gym one morning, and luckily God was with me, and the truck stopped in the middle of the road, and when I came to, I didn't know where I was or who I was, and it took so long to come out of it. And so again, I went to see the doctor. I was supposed to bring bread, and we got there, and I was just told I could not work anymore or drive.
It was like was it on your lunch break?
Yeah.
Like she went on her lunch break thinking, I'm just going to go to the doctor's, and then he's like, you can't work anymore, like, starting now. Like, just so unexpected. So that's where, again, like, how important it is, if you know loved ones who deal with MS, like, trying to support them and trying to create as stress-free of an environment as possible, because that is scary.
It is.
And then we're getting kind of long on this. So one last thing, traditionally, when somebody's diagnosed with multiple sclerosis, the typical American approach is to get them straight onto pharmaceuticals, and we know lots of people, now that Mom's been diagnosed, there's a massive community that she's kind of got to be involved in within our local area. There's a lot of people who take that route. And as somebody on the outside looking in, I see a lot of people who take that route, and just their quality of life, maybe for good day is good. It's like 1 step forward, 2 steps back is what it kind of looks like. For some people, it's great. But mom knew right away, knowing a friend of ours who was going to Germany already knowing people within the community, she knew that that was not the approach she wanted to take. So tell us a little bit about how or why you chose to take a more holistic approach versus like going down the medicinal route. Because in 18 years, you've never taken a pharmaceutical specifically for the MS. So how do you do it? Like, how are you 18 years in and still walking? Not that life is perfect. It's hard,
Right.
but how do you manage? How do you cope? And
Well, when I was first diagnosed, I knew friends from up north that had it and were doing the traditional medication. I could just kind of see the cycle. You take a med and it has this side effect and that side effect. So then you take another med for that side effect and another med for that side effect. But then I saw the people that were going to Germany. And they were going to Germany. They were coming back feeling better and stronger. And yes, it wears off. But you by the time you start to wear down, you're getting so close to your next trip. And I just felt like that was the road for me. And so shortly into it, I started doing a strict MS diet. No dairy, no sugar, no wheat, no gluten, no flour, just a lot of no's. But within a year, I had seen a lesion disappear. A new lesion that had developed was gone in a year. We'll get into that more later, but I take a lot of natural supplements. I do a lot of stretching and yoga, and I have an inversion table. I have a vibration plate machine. I spend a good hour and a half every morning before I even start my day on anything else. When I get up, just doing stretches, doing the inversion table, using an infrared belt for my back and different things. So it's a lot of work,
Yeah.
but it's good. God
Yes.
is good. And my faith is probably the biggest and best thing, and my family. I am just blessed with my daughter and my other daughter and son and my husband and my parents, my girlfriends. I just have a very wonderful support network. And God has just been with me through the whole thing. And I just feel like faith is most important, and family and friends and
yeah.
positive attitude.
It's definitely a lot of information, and we have a lot more that we want to share over the course of the next month. We have a few videos. We want to do a video every Sunday to share with you guys, so just kind of a little idea of what's to come. Next week, we're going to talk about like diet and lifestyle. What does her diet look like specifically? What are things she prioritizes? What has she cut out since her diagnosis? Lifestyle. What is she doing in the day-to-day to keep strong and healthy? We're going to talk one week about, follow her around for a day. We're going to do a day in the life of Lori. You know, what does it look like first thing in the morning? How does she spend that first hour and a half? What is she doing throughout the day to prioritize her health and keeping strong and healthy? We're going to hopefully get a Q&A with both of the doctors that treat her, both her acupuncturist and her massage therapist, and hopefully get some insight from them as well. And then finally, her birthday actually is 4 weeks from today, on the 20th of February. That's going to be our last big day for the fundraiser. And we're going to gather as a family. We're going to talk about how MS affects the family and a wider thing. Obviously, you're going to hear a lot over the next month from Lori about what this means to her, how this has changed her life, all of that. But also, I know a lot of people here watching don't have MS. But you might know someone who, you know Lori, or you know someone who has, and to see how that affects people. And just hopefully that will be an encouragement to you guys as well. And then just to finish to say, so last year we set a financial goal of $10,000. I have to get the numbers. I'll share that next time. But we surpassed that. Thank you so much for your generosity. We're setting the same goal this year, and just hopeful. So just an idea, like $10,000. When I hear that amount, well, that seems like a lot of money. But also, so is everything that she's doing. Ideally, she should be having a massage, and not like a feel-good massage, like a therapeutic massage. She should be doing that weekly. And right now, with what we raised last year, we're able to do that twice a month, which is still such a blessing.
Yes.
But just twice a month is $2,400 over the course of the year. Acupuncture every week at a very generous rate from her massage therapist who's treated her for 17 years now is $2,080. You know, her supplements, all the nutritional stuff that she is buying in addition to just normal diet life is close to $3,000. MRIs alone, her deductible, she has to do 3 different MRIs, and those are $1,500. You know, so there's massive expenses with this, but for us, it's worth it. And so having you guys kind of partner with us in this as a family, we cannot tell you how grateful we are for. What did we say? 17 years now? 18 years.
17. This
17
is the 17th
years
year of the LoLo Bash.
you guys partnering with our family, just pouring out generosity. Like, we can't tell you how much that means. And the fact that she's still here, the fact that she's still standing, that she's still walking, that she's doing as well as she is literally only possible because of you guys' generosity. So we have so many exciting things for you over the next month, but we're kicking off tomorrow our fundraiser. $10,000 is our goal to raise by her birthday, which is February 20th. And then we're going to do a raffle. So for every donation at a certain amount, your name will be entered into a raffle. And then on the 21st of February, we're going to draw for a $100 Visa gift card. So if you give, there's a chance that you also will receive. But regardless, we hope that you guys will just kind of follow along over the next month and be so blessed by what we share, who you get to hear for, and all that stuff. But thank you guys so much, and we will see you
Thank you guys
tomorrow.